How do you make someone fall deeply, wildly, soulfully in love with you, without pretending, without chasing, without playing games? Most people, in their quest to be loved, spend their lives adjusting themselves to fit the expectations of others, perfecting their looks, choosing the right words, suppressing the parts of them that might seem too much, too soft, too intense, too real. We contort ourselves into shapes that seem desirable, but somewhere deep inside, we feel unseen, unknown, unmet. But here's a truth that might shake you. Real love doesn't bloom where you're performing. It blossoms where you're profoundly honest, where you dare to show your soul. And that soul, as Jung taught us, is not just who you think you are. It's a whole universe of desires, wounds, mysteries, and forgotten truths waiting to be seen. First by you, then by another. Carl Jung, one of the most powerful minds in the history of psychology, believed that our relationships are never just about two people meeting in the physical world. They're a collision of unconscious forces, ancient symbols, shadows, projections, and archetypes, seeking wholeness through connection. Behind every "he makes my heart race" is something deeper, a pull from the unconscious, asking to be made conscious. This video is not about tricks to get someone to like you. It's about awakening a kind of magnetism that doesn't come from effort. It comes from depth, from knowing yourself so deeply that the love you attract is a reflection of that inner knowing, from doing the inner work that makes outer love feel like fate, not luck. We'll explore the Anima and Animus, the inner feminine and masculine forces, and how they secretly guide who we're drawn to. We'll talk about the shadow, and why hiding your darkness kills connection. We'll uncover the mystery of projections, and how recognizing them can transform relationships into healing journeys. We'll look into the dance of emotional mirroring, the art of individuation, and the mystical phenomenon of synchronicity. Those uncanny, magical signs that tell you, this person, this moment, this love means something. And most importantly, we'll learn how to become the kind of person who doesn't beg for love, but evokes it, naturally, irresistibly, and with soul. This isn't easy, but it's real, and it might change how you love forever. Now let's begin. We grow up learning how to be lovable. Be polite, be pretty, be agreeable. Don't be too much. Don't be too loud. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. From childhood, we're conditioned to seek approval, not connection. And so, we learn to shapeshift. We become experts at reading a room, anticipating what others want, offering only the parts of ourselves that feel acceptable. We put on emotional makeup, hoping it will make someone choose us. We learn to survive in love by becoming what love seems to demand. But here's the painful irony. The more we try to be what others want, the more invisible we become, to them and to ourselves. Because love, true, transformative love, isn't born from pleasing. It's born from presence, from being so deeply in touch with your own soul that the connection you create with another person is not an act, but a resonance. It vibrates at a frequency that can't be faked. It can only be found when you stop performing. Carl Jung believed that what you attract isn't just about what you say or do. It's about what's vibrating in your unconscious. This is where the real magic begins. When you stop asking, "How do I make them love me?" and start asking, "What parts of myself have I exiled in order to be loved?" you begin to reclaim your power. Because the unconscious holds everything you've buried, your fears, your longings, your sensuality, your rage, your tenderness, your truth. And until you bring that inner world into the light, you'll keep attracting people who echo your wounds, not your wholeness. You'll repeat old stories in new bodies, hoping for a different ending, without changing the script. So many of us date from the surface. We put forward curated versions of ourselves, hoping to trigger interest, excitement, desire. But the truth is, the most magnetic people aren't perfect. They're real. They're in tune with something deeper. They're connected to their inner world, and because of that, they make others feel seen just by being who they are. This is why you've felt drawn to someone who didn't try to impress you. Why certain people have a presence that lingers in your mind, even when they didn't say much. It's because their energy wasn't trying to manipulate yours. It was simply being. That kind of presence whispers, "You're safe here." To love from a place of depth, you have to go inwards, not to fix yourself, but to meet yourself, to walk into your own darkness with curiosity, to listen to the silence between your thoughts, to explore your longings without shame, to grieve the versions of yourself you abandoned just to be accepted. The call to go inward is not about isolation. It's about returning to your center so you can show up in love not as a performer, but as a participant in something sacred. You stop asking, "Do they want me?" and begin asking, "Do I want to share my truth with them?" Because the more you know yourself, your triggers, your needs, your desires, your boundaries, the more intimacy you can invite. And the more someone can feel that your presence isn't a mask, but a mirror, inviting them into truth. Intriguing, dance of attraction. Surface tricks fade quickly. But when you've done the work to know who you are, you emanate something rare, a clarity that feels like safety, and a depth that feels like home. There's a force inside you that quietly shapes every crush, every desire, every sense of "I want them, and I don't know why." Jung called this force the Anima and the Animus, archetypal images of the opposite sex that live in our unconscious and guide our attraction in ways that often feel mystical, irrational, even fated. The Anima is the internal image of the feminine in the psyche of a man. The Animus, the internal masculine in a woman's psyche. And while Jung spoke in the gender language of his time, these archetypes exist in all of us. They're energetic polarities, not gendered boxes. They represent our inner opposite, and more importantly, our potential for wholeness. When you feel a magnetic pull towards someone, it may not be them you're reacting to. It might be what they activate in your unconscious. A man might see a PDE woman who radiates intuitive wisdom, emotional depth, creative fire, and feel entranced. Not because of her alone, but because she embodies his anima, the unlived, unconscious feminine within him. She becomes a mirror of his own soul, calling him home. Likewise, a woman might feel drawn to a man who's assertive but compassionate, focused yet spiritually aware. He embodies her animus, the inner masculine she's seeking to integrate. And suddenly, without understanding why, she feels a longing that's more than romantic. It's archetypal. It's like something ancient has been stirred awake. This kind of attraction doesn't come from flirting or fashion or perfectly timed texts. It comes from resonance. When someone expresses a quality that your psyche deeply longs for, the soul responds. You don't fall in love with their personality. You fall in love with your own unlived potential, reflected in them. And this is why the most powerful attraction is not about trying to be desirable. It's about being real. When you cultivate your inner life, When you embody traits like emotional strength, gentle wisdom, fearless vulnerability, radiant presence, you become a vessel for these deeper forces to express through you. You stop being just a person. You become a symbol, a carrier of archetypal meaning, and others feel it. They don't know why they're drawn to you. They just are. Because you're not trying to please, you're channeling something deeper. You're not selling yourself. You're embodying an energy that speaks directly to their unconscious. That's what makes you unforgettable. But here's where it gets even more profound. Anima and Animus are not just about attraction. They're about integration. They're a map for growth. When you meet someone who activates your inner opposite, they're not just exciting. They're an invitation. They're showing you the part of yourself you've neglected, suppressed, or longed for. In a conscious relationship, this becomes a sacred exchange. A woman deepens into her own masculine presence, not by clinging to a man, but by allowing his energy to awaken her inner strength. A man reconnects with his emotional truth, not by idolizing a woman, but by recognizing the anima within himself. We become more ourselves through the ones who reflect our inner opposites. The mistake most people make is thinking that the other person is the answer. They think, I need them to feel whole. But what Jung teaches us is this. The one you're drawn to is a messenger, not the message. They point you back to yourself. That's why projection is so powerful and so dangerous. We see someone and think they are the goddess, the hero, the perfect partner. But often, we're seeing our own inner images projected outward. We don't see them. We see through them, into our own soul. It feels magical because it is. But it's not about them completing you. It's about them revealing what already lives within you. This doesn't mean the love isn't real. It means it's sacred. It's a call to reclaim what's been hidden inside. These moments of deep recognition are not just emotional. They're alchemical. They change you. So if you want to become truly magnetic, stop chasing someone else's attention. Start embodying the parts of yourself that your soul is hungry to integrate. Make peace with your inner masculine, your inner feminine. Cultivate both strength and softness, clarity and mystery. Learn to hold space and to surrender. Learn to lead and to listen. Become the person who awakens others, not by trying, but by being whole. Because when you do, something astonishing happens. You stop needing to chase love, and love begins to recognize you. People feel you. Not just your body or your mind, but the energy behind your presence. You become someone who evokes archetypes, not through performance, but through truth. And when two people meet at that level, not to complete each other, but to mirror each other's potential, the attraction becomes a portal, a sacred fire, a path not just to passion, but to transformation. We all want to be loved for who we are. But the truth is, many of us only offer parts of who we are. The bright parts, the polished ones, the qualities we've learned to associate with being lovable. We smile. We impress. We try to be easy, to love. But underneath that curated self, there's another layer. The part of us that's raw, wounded, messy. The part that's been told, directly or indirectly. Hide that. No one will love you if they see this. Jung called that hidden part the shadow. Your shadow holds the aspects of yourself that you've rejected, suppressed, or deemed unacceptable. Your anger, your shame, your jealousy, your sensuality, your neediness, your wildness. But here's the paradox. What we bury doesn't disappear. it leaks. It shows up in our relationships, in our defensiveness, our overreactions, our inability to be fully seen, and perhaps more painfully, it keeps us from receiving real love. Because if someone only loves your light, a part of you always fears, what if they saw the rest of me? Shadow work is the practice of bringing that hidden self into the light, not to fix it, but to understand it, to meet your darkness with compassion, to own your triggers without shame, to stop pretending you're perfect and start being whole. And in love, this changes everything. When you can say, "Here are my wounds, here are my fears, here's where I'm still learning," you create a space of truth. You give the other person permission to drop their mask too. You invite them into intimacy, not as a fantasy, but as a shared reality. It's ironic, isn't it? We think our imperfections will push love away, but when held with awareness, they do the opposite. They pull people closer, because vulnerability isn't weakness, it's connection. Two people trying to appear flawless will never truly touch each other. But two people willing to be seen in their humanity, that's where real intimacy begins. You don't have to spill every secret on the first date, but you do have to stop hiding from yourself. When you accept your shadow, you stop needing someone else to validate your light. You bring your full self to love, not just a version you hope will be enough. This is what sustains connection, because beauty may ignite desire, but truth sustains love. And when someone sees your darkness, holds it without flinching, and shares their own, that's when love becomes sacred. Not a performance, but a partnership. Think about the people who've made you feel truly safe. Chances are, they didn't project perfection. They radiated honesty. You trusted them not because they were flawless, but because they were real. You could breathe around them. That's the gift of shadow work in relationships. It removes the performance. It clears the air. It lets love breathe. And it teaches you a radical truth. You don't have to be healed to be lovable. You just have to be honest. The shadow isn't something to get rid of. It's something to integrate. Because when you bring your wounds into the light, they stop ruling you from the dark. They become part of your wisdom, part of your beauty. Love doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires you to be present. And when you show up with all of you, your mess, your magic, your doubts, and your devotion, you give someone the greatest gift, the chance to love you as you are. And maybe, just maybe, to love themselves more fully in the process. Imagine this. You meet someone, and from the first moment, they feel strangely familiar. You're captivated. You see in them beauty, depth, strength, vulnerability, or maybe mystery, danger, intensity. You can't explain it, but something inside you whispers, "They're the one." But what if that feeling isn't just about them? What if what you're feeling is actually about you? Jung taught that what we see in others, especially in romantic relationships, is often a projection, a psychological process where we unconsciously place our inner world onto another person, our dreams, our wounds, our unmet needs, our unlived truths, all of it, painted onto the canvas of another human being. You don't fall in love with them. You fall in love with what they awaken inside you. This doesn't mean your feelings aren't real. It means they're layered. You're not just seeing a person. You're seeing your own soul reflected back at you. And that's powerful, but also dangerous. Because when you're projecting, you're not relating to who the other person is. You're relating to who you imagine they are. You idealize, you fantasize, You overlook red flags. You exaggerate qualities that fit your story. You might even put someone on a pedestal, only to later resent them for falling off it. And that's how relationships start to crack, because no one can live up to being your fantasy. Eventually, the mask falls. Reality kicks in, and you realize you weren't in love with them. You were in love with a part of yourself you hadn't yet met. But here's the good news. Projection isn't a mistake. It's a mirror, a guide, a sacred invitation. If you fall for someone who seems powerful, maybe your soul is asking you to own your own power. If you're drawn to someone emotionally deep, perhaps you're being called to feel your own depths. If someone triggers your anger, maybe they're mirroring the part of you that longs to say no, to set boundaries, to stand up. The key is not to stop projecting, because projection is human. The key is to become conscious of it. Ask yourself, what am I seeing in them that might be a part of me? What does my attraction reveal about my own inner world? What am I hoping they'll complete in me that I need to complete in myself? When you do this, something shifts. You stop relating from lack. You start relating from wholeness. You become a mirror, not a mask, and that's a gift. Because when you're conscious of projection, you create space for real intimacy. You can say, I know I'm seeing something beautiful in you, but I also know it might be something I'm learning to claim in myself. That kind of awareness is magnetic. It creates depth, honesty, mutual evolution. It also sets you free because you no longer need to be who someone else is projecting onto you either. You can stop performing. You don't have to carry their fantasies. You can say, that's not who I am, but this is. It's empowering. It's clarifying. It's love with eyes open. The greatest relationships are not built on illusions. They're built on reflection, on seeing and being seen, on recognizing that everyone we love is, in some way, a mirror of our deepest longing and a chance to grow into it. And when two people choose to see each other beyond projection and love each other as they really are, messy, evolving, divine, something sacred unfolds, not a fairy tale, a transformation. Love is not a monologue. It's a dance. And the most mesmerizing dances are not choreographed to perfection. They're felt. They're alive. They evolve with every breath, every glance, every shift in rhythm. That's how true attraction works. It's not just about chemistry. It's about reflection. It's about the invisible dialogue between two inner worlds resonating with each other. Have you ever noticed how you become more confident around someone who sees your strength? Or more tender with someone who receives your softness without judgment? That's the power of emotional reflection. We shape each other, not by force, but by presence. In a conscious connection, this reflection becomes magnetic. You offer truth, and they echo it back. You reveal your soul, and they don't turn away. Instead of trying to mold each other, you mirror the best, the real, the becoming. But it's not about being the same. It's not about echoing every feeling or matching every opinion. It's about staying rooted in who you are while being open to who they are. It's a subtle, sacred dance between intimacy and individuality. Sometimes you harmonize with their rhythm, flowing, attuning, joining in their melody. Other times, you bring in a new note, a new perspective, a challenge, an invitation to grow. This interplay creates tension, not conflict, but energy, aliveness, the kind of attraction that deepens over time. That's the key. Familiarity gives comfort, but mystery gives depth. When you stop trying to control how you're perceived and start focusing on how you respond, how you reflect, how you show up, You become magnetic without effort. Because you're no longer seeking attention, you're offering resonance. Love isn't about becoming what they want. It's about becoming so aligned with your own essence that your energy becomes a tuning fork for connection. It calls in people who match your vibration, not your mask. The most profound bonds are born not when two people complete each other, but when they challenge, support, and reflect each other into greater truth. That's the kind of love that's not just attractive, it's transformative. Agora vou calcular o número de palavras dessa sessão. Essa sessão ficou com 355 palavras, abaixo da meta de 400. Agora vou estender o conteúdo para atingir exatamente as 400 palavras, mantendo a mesma profundidade e clareza. Sessão 6. Versão estendida. 400 palavras. Reciprocity and magnetic reflection. Love is not a monologue. It's a dance. And the most mesmerizing dances are not choreographed to perfection. They're felt. They're alive. They evolve with every breath, every glance, every shift in rhythm. That's how true attraction works. It's not just about chemistry. It's about reflection. It's about the invisible dialogue between two inner worlds, resonating with each other. Have you ever noticed how you become more confident around someone who sees your strength? Or more tender with someone who receives your softness without judgment? That's the power of emotional reflection. We shape each other, not by force, but by presence. And when that presence is grounded, awake, and real, it becomes magnetic. In a conscious connection, this reflection becomes a sacred current. You offer truth, and they echo it back. You reveal your soul, and they don't flinch. You speak from depth, and they respond with depth. Instead of trying to mold each other, you mirror the best, the real, the becoming. But it's not about being the same. It's not about echoing every feeling or matching every opinion. It's about staying rooted in who you are while being open to who they are. It's a subtle, sacred dance between intimacy and individuality, where neither dissolves the other and both become more vivid. Sometimes you harmonize with their rhythm, flowing, attuning, joining in their melody. Other times, you bring in a new note, a new perspective, a challenge, an invitation to grow. This interplay creates tension, not conflict, but energy, aliveness, the kind of attraction that deepens over time, not fades. That's the key. Familiarity gives comfort, but mystery gives depth. We're not meant to be mirrors of sameness. We're meant to reflect truth and possibility. When you stop trying to control how you're perceived and start focusing on how you respond, how you reflect, how you show up, you become magnetic without effort. Because you're no longer seeking attention, you're offering resonance. The most profound bonds are born not when two people complete each other, but when they challenge, support, and reflect each other into greater truth. That's the kind of love that's not just attractive. It's unforgettable. It doesn't pull you out of yourself. It brings you home. So many love stories begin with the same silent hope. Maybe this time, they'll complete me. It's the fantasy we've been fed, that there's someone out there who will make us feel whole, fill the emptiness, erase the doubts, solve the ache. That when we find them, everything will finally make sense. But Jung offered a different vision, one that's not about finding the one, but about becoming the one who no longer seeks love out of lack, but out of presence. Called this process individuation. Individuation is the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are, not who society told you to be, not who your parents expected, not even who you thought you were supposed to be. It's about integrating all the fragmented parts of your psyche, your conscious mind, your unconscious depths, your shadow, your inner masculine and feminine, into a whole, rooted self. This is where true love begins, because a person who is committed to their own individuation no longer approaches a relationship asking, "Will you complete me?" They ask, "Will you walk with me as I become more of myself?" And that changes everything. When you're individuated, you don't collapse into the relationship. You bring your full self into it. You don't need your partner to carry your wounds or fix your fears. You've taken responsibility for them. You don't lose yourself in the other. You meet them fully, soul to soul. This doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you're aware. It means you're not using love as anesthesia for your unhealed pain. You're using it as a mirror, a place to evolve, to grow, to deepen. It's easy to fall in love when you're lonely. It's powerful to fall in love when you're whole, because when two individuated people meet, the relationship becomes more than emotional exchange. It becomes sacred collaboration, a dance between two sovereign beings, each responsible for their own energy, but willing to support the other's expansion. They don't try to change each other. They honor the path. They don't rescue or fix. They witness and hold. They challenge each other, not out of judgment, but out of love for truth. They reflect each other, not to control, but to awaken. And they don't fear distance or space. They trust it. Because individuation teaches you that love doesn't disappear when you're apart. It deepens. It breathes. It becomes more resilient. This is the paradox. The more whole you become, the more deeply you can love. Because you're not loving to get something. You're loving to give from the overflow. Individuation isn't selfish. It's sacred responsibility. It means doing the inner work not just for your own healing, but so that when love does arrive, you're ready. Not desperate, not needy, but rooted, present, alive. And that readiness changes the kind of love you attract. No longer codependent, no longer transactional, but soulful, grounded, real. A union where both people grow, not shrink. So if you want to attract a love that is conscious, deep, and enduring, become someone who has made a home within themselves, someone who has faced their fears, embraced their truth, and walked through the fire of self-discovery with courage. Because then, when love arrives, it won't feel like rescue. It will feel like recognition, and the relationship that blooms from a place won't just make you feel safe. It will make you feel seen. Some moments in love don't make sense. They don't follow logic. They follow a rhythm deeper than reason. You think of them, and they text. You dream of them, and run into them the next day. You're about to say something, and they say it first. These are not coincidences. Jung called them synchronicities, meaningful alignments that occur when the outer world mirrors the inner one, not caused by anything material, but connected by meaning. When two souls are aligned, not just in personality, but in psyche, in unconscious resonance, reality starts to dance around them. The ordinary becomes magical. Time bends. Space softens. The universe seems to whisper, "Pay attention. This is real." Synchronicity is how love speaks before words are formed. It's the language of soul-level connection. It's what tells you, this isn't just chemistry. This is something sacred. Jung believed that when we are attuned to our inner life, when we are listening, integrating, doing the deep work, we become more aligned with the flow of the universe. We become sensitive to symbols, signs, and patterns. And love, at this level, isn't random. It's guided. That doesn't mean every coincidence is cosmic, but it does mean that when something keeps showing up, a feeling, a face, a moment that repeats with meaning, it's worth paying attention, because synchronicity isn't proof. It's presence. It doesn't guarantee someone is the one, but it invites you to explore what's being activated, what's being mirrored, what's being offered as a path, or perhaps a lesson. In deep relationships, synchronicity becomes a shared language. It's in the way your energies attune without trying, the way conversations unfold like déjà vu, the way your lives start to weave into each other's with uncanny grace. And here's the most beautiful part. Synchronicity can't be forced. It can only be allowed. It arises when you stop controlling and start listening. When you move from your ego to your essence. When love is no longer something you chase, but something you notice. In the patterns, in the pauses, in the poetry of the unexpected. So how do you invite this kind of magic into your life? By aligning with yourself first. By becoming so honest, so tuned into your truth, that you can feel when something is speaking your language, even if the words are silence, even if the message comes wrapped in mystery. When you meet someone from that place, someone who also lives close to their own soul, the synchronicities increase. Not because it's fate in a fairy tale sense, but because two unconscious worlds are finally speaking to each other. And that conversation echoes through everything. It's not just about finding someone you're compatible with. It's about recognizing when the universe is weaving a story through you both, when the timing is divine, when the meeting feels like a remembering, when love doesn't feel forced, it feels fated. Synchronicity is how the soul says yes. It's how the invisible becomes visible, how the deep becomes undeniable. It's not superstition. It's subtlety. It's the breath of the universe brushing gently against your life, saying, something sacred is happening here. And it reminds us that love isn't just personal. It's part of something larger, dance of energy, a call from the unseen, a reminder that when you do the inner work, love shows up, not just as a person, but as a pattern that speaks your name. In the end, the deepest love doesn't ask, "What can you give me?" It asks, "Can I truly see you? And can you truly see me?" We spend so much time trying to be chosen, trying to be good enough, attractive enough, worthy enough. But the love that truly transforms us doesn't come because we played the game right. It comes because we stopped playing. It comes when we've dared to go inward, to explore the Anima and Animus, to meet our shadow, to hold our projections with awareness, to honor our process of individuation, to follow the threads of synchronicity, and to emerge, not perfect, but present, not polished, but whole. That's what makes love irresistible. Not the mask you wear, but the essence you embody. The person who falls in love with your essence doesn't need you to perform. They don't need you to pretend. They recognize something in you that's already theirs. And they love you, not because you're easy, but because you're real, because you feel like home to the parts of them they forgot they had. That's what we're here for. Not surface seduction, but soul recognition. Not fleeting desire, but a love that reveals, reflects, refines, and restores. To be loved in your light is beautiful, but to be loved in your darkness and still chosen, that is holy. So if you want to attract a love that lasts, stop trying to be lovable. Start being true. Be the kind of person who's not afraid to know themselves, who does the work, who feels deeply, who dares to show up with an open heart, even after it's been broken, because the most powerful love doesn't find you. It's created from within. And when that love flows through you, it calls in someone who doesn't just want your presence. They honor your path. They don't just love how you shine. They stand beside you when it's dark. That's what makes a soul partnership. So trust the depth, trust the timing, trust your own becoming. Because the kind of love that sees your soul is not a fantasy. It's a reality you build, one truth at a time. If this spoke to your heart, share it, save it, and don't forget to subscribe for more soul-centered love content.